I came across this image online. Now first, I understand there's a chance this is not real. I also know that we've confirmed enough craziness in this world that it shouldn't come as a surprise if it is real. So let's say it is. We then have to consider that pretty much all warning signs and labels are reactive rather than proactive. As in, the first stop sign wasn't posted because of the possibility that two drivers didn't have the sense to consider cross traffic at an intersection, and that those two drivers could quite possibly end up at the exact same intersection at the exact same time. No, they put up the first stop sign after enough people repeatedly crashed into each other. And we also have to consider that just like stop signs today, there are people that are going to ignore this label and do with this as they see fit. No pun intended. Welcome to Driving at SATX. This intersection is a frustrating scene on a regular basis. It's highly trafficked by inconsiderate, selfish assholes who only give a damn about their own agenda. If you've driven around San Antonio, you damn sure know the type. If you aren't sure if you've experienced this type of driver, it might be you. At this particular intersection, I'm sitting here. The cars opposite me have 3 lanes. This lane is a turn-only lane, and this lane only allows cars to continue straight. Now the third lane breaks off with this island here and allows cars to turn right. What you should know here is that this turning arrow can change pretty quickly, causing this lane to build up a long line at times, exposing some very inconsiderate drivers. I've been in this line many times, but what I've never done is say to hell with everyone, I'm going to go after this light turns red, or I'm going to go around these drivers that have been waiting patiently because I feel like I should. But there are plenty of people who, like children, are out for instant gratification by any means. There are multiple examples at this one stop alone. Watch as the oncoming cars get their green light to go. These get a turn arrow, and these should be going straight. But don't tell that to this asshole or this one. And now that I have a green light, the asshole parade continues. Even this straggler, as late as she is, she saw that she has a red light. And yes, when this arrow is gone, this lane gets a red light. Not a blinking yellow, a red light. She saw that from that far away. She saw me coming, and she said, yeah, this is a good idea. I'll go ahead and get this one. No, you won't, lady. And then there's this asshole, who burns through his red light to turn as I'm coming through. I eventually catch up to this guy, and guess what? Of course, this specimen is on his phone. People driving around the streets of my city, just making it shitty for everyone. I've discussed this in my videos before, and I've seen plenty of viewers discuss this in the comments as well. It seems there are many people that are aware of what the far left lane is for, passing other vehicles. But there seems to be an alarming number of people that have no flipping clue as to what's supposed to happen on this side of the highway. Take these 4 cars, for example. We all just passed a handful of cars, and there's currently no longer anyone to pass, as indicated by this clear open lane here. Now, once you have a clearance to move out of the passing lane, you're really supposed to get out of the way. There may be cars behind you that now wish to pass you. You don't stay in this lane simply because you like the view from here. That's not how this works. Just as frustrating as it is that there are people who do not regard signs because they cannot comprehend what a sign is indicating or cannot comprehend the importance of said sign, there are also drivers who get it 100% backwards and do things when there's no sign telling them to do so. This happens to be an example of both. So here's this first driver who has a yield sign and seems to kind of be aware that something should happen here as they step on the brake and slow down. That's right, they have a yield sign, and this truck is exactly who this driver needs to yield to. But this driver sees this yield sign and says, oh, that means I just need to rest my foot on the brake for a moment as I drive on through here as if I have the right of way. So I guess that then makes this driver second guess the entire system, as this driver slows to a complete stop in an attempt to yield to me. As I wish to stop the madness and reset the situation here, I stop well before the mark to make it clear to this driver that they can go, which allows the rest of the cars coming off the ramp to get through as they should have. When you're driving, when making a turn, you're supposed to turn your steering wheel only when you're in line to make your turn. Here's an example of what that means. When you're going to make a turn, there's a specific point at which your steering wheel needs to be turned. When making a left turn, you want to pull all the way up to the point where you want your car to turn before you actually turn. This ensures that you clear any traffic that might be waiting for their chance to go. When you turn too early like this, you risk hitting cars that are waiting. She started turning her truck here when she should have done so up here. She then comes within inches of my vehicle. On this day, the Nissan that just passed me has a less than desirable experience driving down this highway. After passing this truck, they realize they're behind a passing lane challenged driver. Then, as they're making their way around that car, they have to avoid the mindless driver of this SUV who decides to come over when it really wasn't a good idea to do so. In the last video, we covered selfish drivers at four-way stops. There's still plenty of this going on all around the city because of asshole drivers like the one you're about to see. So far, everyone here seems to get the concept of when it's their turn to go. So here this car goes, which then leaves it open for these two cars. This one goes straight, and really this one has the right to make his turn, but they don't seem to be in much of a hurry. They allow this car to go. So I'm stopping it here because I want to point something out. Notice, as we roll forward and back really quickly, this truck in front of me has come up to the sign and made the necessary stop. It sits here through this car taking their turn, and then this car. At the same time, notice this truck just rolled up to the stop sign. So it should have been more than clear to anyone that has half a brain that this truck is next. They have patiently waited their turn, and that turn is now. This truck just pulled up, but it seems the minimum requirement of half a brain was not met by this driver. And it also seems we have another childish driver who was most likely enabled by mommy growing up. Driving through the crowded streets of downtown on a Saturday night can bring out some really crappy driving in some people. Let's take a look here. This out-of-towner wants to turn left, and of course they need to wait for oncoming traffic to clear before doing so. As the light turns yellow, then red, these two drivers continue to go because their agenda is more important than any of us driving on the same streets, which leaves this vehicle in an awkward spot, blocking most of the crosswalk and sticking out into the intersection. I can imagine the discomfort and possible anxiety of sitting in this weird spot. Now we're on a two-way street here, and there may be some cars that want to turn this way here, but it would be really tight to do so with this car sticking out as far as they are. Finally, this light begins to change, and we're going to get a green light again. However, this driver is so frustrated with the situation at this point, they decide they're not even going to wait for oncoming traffic. They're just going to hit the gas and go. But forget that pedestrian traffic also gets a green light, and now becomes just as much of a jerk as they're waiting for pedestrians to clear, but blocking oncoming traffic at the same time. It's been a couple videos since we've seen a brake waster. Well, here we go. As I approach this car, the brakes are already being applied. Let's watch. Now what this driver is doing is what many people refer to as riding the brakes. That is, they rest their left foot on the brake pedal while they press the accelerator with their right foot. That's right, they're pressing forward while pulling back at the same time. The car is fighting itself to move forward. This is not only not good for the car, as it is negatively affecting the braking system, while causing the car to burn more gas than it would if the car was not fighting its own brakes, but it poses a hazard to everyone on the road. If this driver finds a reason to stop suddenly, the sudden appearance of brake lights would not cause someone to react right away because the brake lights are already on. You know how they say most accidents are preventable? Well, not riding the brakes is just one way to prevent accidents. We gotta drive better, SA. Stay safe, everyone.